Sean, this is The Unnecessary Gentlemen, a podcast where I, Snoop Lynch, and you, Sean Doyle, talk about movies, comics, TVs, and video games, and all the other kinds of stuff that we talk about.
Is that what this is?
That's exactly what this is. And now that you're up to speed, we'd probably just get straight into that. You think?
Wow, you're not wasting any time here. It's gonna be a crammed episode.
It is. I'm not sure we could fit all this in the door.
Wait, you gotta turn it sideways. Turn that news sideways. No, you're sideways. You're left.
Wait. So it'd be my right?
You know what? Just put it down. Put it.
Just do it right
down.
here.
Put it down.
Sorry.
Dang it, Snoop.
Let's just do the news right here then. What news you got for me, Sean?
Oh, you're gonna want to talk about that whole Han Solo movie, aren't you?
Yeah, we should probably get straight into that, Sean. There's a lot to talk about there alone. So Phil Lord, Chris Miller, who left before, I think they left The Flash to do this movie, the Han Solo movie. They just left this week. Apparently, creative differences got in the way with them and the writer, Lawrence Kasdan, who's done, I think he did Raiders and Empire Strikes Back. That's kind of what he's mostly known for, but he didn't like their fresh take on the character, and the studio decided to side with him instead of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So they're out, Sean. They're old news.
Get them out of here.
I'm actually kind of sad. Well, I would say I'm sad to see him go because I've enjoyed all their work so far. You know, they did the first Lego movie.
Yeah.
They did the 21 Jump Street revival, which those are actually really funny.
Yeah, and the only good comedy sequel, 22 Jump Street.
Yeah, it's great. I think, didn't they also do the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see. Obviously, the studios kind of hired them for a reason. I'm guessing because they know comedy as well as they do. But I guess their version on their twist on the character didn't mesh well with this writer, and since he wrote the script and he's kind of been there since the beginning of like Star Wars and Raiders, they decided to go with his opinion over theirs. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about this? Me personally, I didn't necessarily care about this movie anyway.
Well, I'm now sort of interested in this movie because, yeah, they filmed like a good 3/4 of the movie.
I think they've been filming since earlier this year, and there's only supposedly 3 weeks left of initial production. And,
Ron Howard's taken over as director.
Yeah, that was confirmed 2 days later. They definitely wanted to get someone in for this. So, yeah, he'll obviously do these next 3 weeks and then the reshoots. But does that mean that the reshoots are going to be more extensive than they originally planned?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been, rumors around since this kind of started that there have been issues with this project between the directors and the writer, and just Kathleen Kennedy, who's in charge of all this anyway, saying they weren't really liking the initial responses they were getting. So maybe they still want to get it out next year in May, so I don't imagine they could film everything over.
No, not at all.
So I don't know. Like I said, out of all the Star Wars projects that have been confirmed, this isn't one I was really attached to, just because I think, like most people, there's a huge galaxy out there. Why not focus on some of the other characters in it? I don't need to see a Han Solo prequel movie showing how he gets the Falcon and everything.
See him get that vest. See how he becomes friends with Chewie.
See how why he holds his blaster so loosely, so nonchalantly. It's all going to be there, Sean, next year in May. And, we'll definitely see it. We have to. And I'm sure if it's good, I'll enjoy it. But, yeah, I don't know. There's rumors that Phil Lord and Chris Miller might go back to The Flash for WB.
Yeah, they're free now, so why not?
Mm-hmm. And that's still their original script, I believe, since they, when they left, WB kept that script.
I guess they have it. Flash got a page 1 rewrite.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I guess they could always go back to it.
Yeah. I don't know. That'd be good for Warner Brothers, though, to get these guys back on board, because they haven't had any luck finding a replacement since they left.
Yeah.
There's been, 3 other directors. And I'd actually like to see them on this project over the Han Solo movie. How do you feel about Ron Howard directing it?
He's a solid director, so I feel... this could have gone to somebody worse, definitely, considering it was last minute.
Yeah, like I said, they literally got him in 2 days after these directors left. So they want to meet that deadline. And I guess maybe he was one of the front runners before they hired these two. And they went back to him and he said, sure, I'm not doing anything. Let me grab my hat.
Let me grab my brother Clint.
He has my hat, so we're good to go. So yeah, maybe maybe his jokes will they'll make Lawrence Kasdan laugh. That's the test. Well, that's pretty solid news to start out with, Sean. But we've got so many things to cover, so let's just move on. It looks like, speaking of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they wrote the script for that animated Spider-Man film we're going to get next year with Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. Looks like Mahershala Ali has been added to the cast. I think he's going to voice his uncle.
Aaron Davis?
Yeah, the Prowler.
Okay.
I don't know if that's confirmed, but that's who I imagine they would... Because he'll definitely have a prominent role. And so I imagine this first film will be, if they make more, this film will be about him fighting his uncle, who's kind of like a supervillain thief. Yeah. Looks pretty good. I'm actually kind of excited for this movie.
Yeah, Mahershala Ali's been blowing up recently.
Yeah, he's he was in Moonlight last year, which you saw. I've seen some of. It's really good. He's good in it. He was great as Cottonmouth and Luke Cage.
Yep. So
he's no stranger to Marvel at this point, although it's still technically Sony. So
Remy Danton in House of Cards.
Oh yeah, he's in that as well.
Yeah, he is.
Good stuff is my point, Sean.
Staying on the Spider-Man stuff, looks like we found out who Donald Glover's going to be playing in Spider-Man Homecoming. You want to know? It's kind of a spoiler.
Yeah, I will just kind of going over that. Didn't they release like the entire cast list?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I skimmed it, but I saved the Donald Glover stuff just so you could tell me on air, Sean.
Looks like he's going to be playing Aaron Davis.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting. So, I guess that can't just be like a nod.
No, that's
too convenient.
Yeah.
Although, is what's his name? Avi Arad, who's been the longtime producer on these Spider-Man films, is he still producing this one?
No, I don't think so. I think that was part of the deal.
He's not allowed anywhere near it?
That was part of the deal between Marvel and Sony. Was like Kevin Feige was like, get that guy out of here.
Good.
He's ruined too much Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, because he's famous for saying that they'll never have anyone else but Peter Parker in the role.
And, it's obvious that Homecoming's going to be leaning a little bit on the Miles Morales stuff. You have Genki in there, so...
Yeah, I think his name in this is Ned. But, yeah, he's definitely that same character who's kind of his friend who knows his identity and also helps him out with tech.
Is he based on Ned Lead?
I think it's a combination of Ned Lead and Genki from Miles Morales' run.
Okay.
Like, I think looks-wise and kind of him being his friend who knows his identity is where they pulled like most of the Genki stuff, and then Ned, like you said, Ned leads. So I think it's just like they combined the two. Is there any? We're already on Sony. They released this cast list, which again spoiled more for this movie than I already didn't need to know. There's 2 shockers on the cast list. So I guess the one shocker that we see in the trailers with that, the purple laser gun thing, I guess he'll get taken out pretty early, kind of in that initial bank robbery scene. And then they'll just get another guy who gets probably the whole suit, quilt and all. So, I don't know. Like I said, I would have liked to have not seen that. And I know I chose to see that, but I don't know. Sony's just, it's another week, isn't it, Sean? Has there been a week where we haven't talked about Sony?
I don't think there's been a day.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about them some more. We got more Venom news as of this week.
Yep.
Guess who's going to be the villain?
Carnage.
Oh, none other than Carnage. The first live-action Carnage we've ever had.
Yeah.
In a Spider-Man movie that doesn't have Spider-Man.
Well, Tom Holland said he might be in it.
Why?
See, here's my theory. Oh. Sony's making all these Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man, and Marvel's kind of like, we don't know if we like that idea. we don't want like all these separate universes floating around the theaters. The kids won't know what's going on.
Oh.
So look, you're kind of forcing our hand here, but we're gonna put some of our stuff in here, and this also leads into more Sony stuff. Spider-Man: Homecoming 2 is going to have another Avengers character playing a large role in it. Not Iron Man, somebody else. We don't know who yet.
Probably Captain America?
Maybe.
Yeah, if it's going to be a large role, it has to be someone big. And we already know that Peter Parker and Steve Rogers kind of bonded during the airport fight. So I wouldn't be surprised. I guess it just depends on when it's set, because unless they secretly have Chris Evans signed on for it already, he's more or less out after Avengers 4. Yeah. So I guess it just depends on when Spider-Man Homecoming 2 takes place. If it's in between them, then that is fine. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I don't like that, though.
Homecoming 2 is coming out in 2019, so it's going to be coming out the same year as Infinity War Part 2. So, who knows?
Who knows, Sean? I certainly don't. That's actually, if that is true, and that's kind of why what they were counting on, that was a big gamble, but that's kind of brilliant to get Marvel to get more of their characters in those movies so people actually go see them. I still hate them, but smart move, Sony, if that's true. If you're listening, I know you are. Who do you think should play Carnage in this? It's got to be someone who can go up against Tom Hardy, but isn't nearly as big as Tom Hardy.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh.
I'm only being sort of serious there, but maybe.
I mean, it could work. Yeah. I know a lot of people are keen to get... what's that guy? The guy who played Rorschach from Watchmen?
Oh, Jackie...
Earl Haley?
Yeah.
Yeah, they want him in there. Okay. I mean, he definitely looks the part.
That, yeah.
Yeah, he looks the part. Plus, he's, kind of scrawny. And he's got all that pent-up rage. I would like that. But, no, Joseph Gordon-Levitt I could actually see as well. I don't know if he would dye his hair, though. I don't think I could take him seriously. I just hope that there's a good enough... Having him in here... Carnage is... I mean, he's extremely 90s. And kind of ridiculous. But I love that character. I just love his design and just... What would happen if this symbiote attached itself to a complete maniac and murderer? So I like all that. And I'm glad to kind of see that we'll finally get him in something. But I hope there's enough distinction between what Venom will look like and what Carnage will look like. I don't want them to all just kind of look slimy and have claws and teeth. But those are just my dreams, Sean. Don't shatter them for me. Sony will do that in time.
So hey, you want a Watchmen HBO show?
Not really.
Well, too bad. Because Damon Lindelof is developing one right now.
Oh, it's definitely in the works right now?
Yeah. Or at least they're developing it. Stuff falls through all the time, but we'll see.
Well, it's HBO, so it has a chance.
Yeah, Damon Lindelof, could do without him. He's famous for taking Lost and just ramming that island right into an iceberg. I don't know how he did it. He wrote the script for Star Trek Into Darkness and some other not so great stuff. And Prometheus.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I don't know how I feel about that. I guess, would they just be retelling the movie?
I guess.
Because, I mean, there's no other... Watchmen are being used in the comics again now, but other than that...
I mean, you can definitely make a miniseries, just adapt each issue into an episode.
You know what wouldn't be a bad idea, and I don't know if this has already been done in something else, but you know how the Silk Spectre, her mom was the original Silk Spectre? Uh-huh. There's a whole other team. Maybe do something about those guys.
The Minutemen, I believe.
Yeah, when the comedian was younger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Watchmen as a movie, but I'm not necessarily crying for more Watchmen stuff. I'm still trying to figure out...
So what are those tears about then, Snoop?
It's not tears, that's sweat.
Oh.
It's really hot in here. Oh, man.
He's sweating from his eyeballs. It's so hot.
You know what I'm crying about, though?
What?
This Godzilla 2 synopsis.
Ah, boy.
I know you're ready to hear it. Tears of joy. That's what I see coming out of your eyes right now. So basically, it looks like that, son of a bitch, I lost it.
Wow. Cursing on the podcast, Snoop. I'm going to fill this empty spot here with some of our classic Unnecessary Gentlemen music.
Oh, I found it. Imagine that. I found it right when you were about to sing. So basically the news story follows the heroic efforts of the cryptozoological agency Monarch as its members face off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with not only Mothra, but also Rodan and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah. That one.
Ghidra,
sure. The thing with 3 heads.
Ghidra.
Okay, sure. How do you feel about that, Sean? 3 monsters, which means we'll probably get at least 45 minutes worth of monsters instead of 30 minutes last time.
I'm trying to gauge my level of indifference here, Snoop. I don't care.
Oh, yeah, you don't like Godzilla 2014.
That was a bad movie.
I like the last 30 minutes of it, and that's what I choose to remember fondly. And I heard the Kong one's okay.
Who knows?
I just want to see Kong and Godzilla fight, and then I'll go home and never talk about it again.
Yep.
But we got to get this out of the way first. I'm excited to see at least the design of these new monsters. I like the design of the Godzilla film, like in that 2014 version.
Looks good.
Yeah. Japanese didn't think so. They thought he was too fat. You remember that? They got all real upset about that.
So, kind of had a feeling this would happen just because of the storyline they're adapting. But Dazzler is going to be in X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I think Sophie Turner confirmed it as well.
Sure.
Who plays Jean Grey in, Apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently, in one of the deleted scenes, where they go to the mall and they have fun in the mall, there's like 1 or 2 scenes that I remember. One is where Jubilee actually uses her powers, even though we don't get that in the final cut. But there's another one where Scott and Jean are in a music store and they pick up a CD, and it has a Dazzler on it, like a cover art or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess at the time they were kind of alluding to that, but then they decided they weren't sure if they were going to use it. So, but yeah, it looks like she's back. You like Dazzler?
When I was younger, no, I thought she was pointless. But now I'm like, whatever, she's all right.
Hoping for that sweet soundtrack song they're going to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can control light, I think. Isn't that her power?
Sort of, yeah. She just can kind of just shoot out exploding lights into the air.
Oh, okay. I don't know how that would be helpful. Or really any different from Jubilee's power.
Just makes her a good disco singer. Really all it is.
We'll see. It'll probably just be if I had to imagine, they'll go to a concert where Dazzler's there and then something happens and then they have to fight their way out and Dazzler has to maybe help them fight for once. I don't know.
So Jurassic World 2 has a sequel. Jurassic World, The Fallen Kingdom.
Huh. Now that's a movie I don't necessarily care about.
Yeah, I'm going to take a wild guess and say the park is just going to fall apart there.
Well, it's got to fall apart at the very end, Sean.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't have a movie.
Wow.
Everyone's back for this? Like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard and Bryce Dallas Howard's heels?
I think, isn't Jeff Goldblum coming for this one?
He is, that's right. He is confirmed to come back. Well, he's doing anything that he can now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely... It's not like he has to. You can get work. I think he just likes getting those easy paychecks now.
He likes making those awkward appearances on Conan. Look some of those up if you've never seen them.
I like Jeff Goldblum, though, so I'm not upset. The things about this movie, I mean, it gave me everything I was hoping it would. Like, I just wanted to see dinosaurs, and I got that. But as far as a movie goes, the last one was just kind of a film. Like, there really wasn't anything special about it. The story was pretty generic and not that interesting. Those 2 kids were annoying. Hopefully this one kind of does something a little more imaginative with its story. Are they going back to the same exact island? Did they forget something?
They left their purse.
Dang it.
Yeah, I'm trying to the name Fallen Kingdom. Like, I'm assuming that that could mean a few things. Like, either the park just completely
fell down.
Yeah, or it could be like it could be talking about like man.
Oh,
like it's dinosaurs are about to take over.
Well, they did already get to New York that one time.
They did,
and that was just one dinosaur. So, plus those pterodactyls are still unaccounted for from the last film. And no one even cared.
And the first one.
Yeah.
You see, that's how it ends. They're just flying off over the ocean. They're like, wasn't that nice? Like, no, that's a problem.
Like, that is an issue.
Have you ever heard about invasive species? It's going to be a problem.
Let the future movie handle it. I'm out. Maybe it means that, I don't know. Well, I want to learn more before I start speculating. Plus, we might have more news we got to cover, so... Actually, we may not.
Well, we got a trailer to talk about.
Oh, just quickly, because we do need to talk about that trailer. And this is just kind of on the side. Apparently, there's rumors going around that Fox is already starting their next Fantastic Four reboot.
About time.
And they said that this one will be a more kid-friendly version since that dark and gritty one didn't work. I think they want to get their kids, Sue Storm and Reed Richards' kids in there.
So like Franklin Richards?
Yeah, okay. And the daughter as well. Those kids that Reed Richards doesn't like. It's just kind of like, it's just a rumor, but I know recently that...
I can't imagine that they would be dumb enough.
I know recently that Marvel said that they have no plans of getting the Fantastic Four into their universe, so that I imagine that's because Fox wasn't willing to give them up. And if that's the case, they must be thinking about something. But yeah, it would just be... Even if they had 10 years before... because isn't it every 8 if they don't do anything?
It's 7 for a Fantastic
7.
Four.
Even if they had 10 years before they even actually had to come out with an announcement, that would still be too soon.
Yeah.
If they were in charge of it.
Well, I can't imagine the stockholders over at Fox just looking at how much, because the one from 2015 lost like $80 million.
Oh, it lost so much money.
So
even before it came out.
Yeah. So I can't. Fine, do what you want, Fox. I don't care.
Well, maybe at the same time they're thinking it's like the X-Men franchise, how that has its ups and downs. Only the problem is with the Fantastic Four franchise, it's had nothing but downs. So maybe they think they're due a win. I just want a good Fantastic Four film. I'm not even really like...
You've had one good one. It was called The Incredibles.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, they said in this rumor that that's the tone they're going for is Pixar's Incredibles. So
Fair enough.
Just make that film. I don't know. But that was my little side note. Wanted to hear your opinion. So we can maybe get into that trailer.
Yeah. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. We just watched it again, Sean.
Yep. Season 7 trailer.
You got those
Final
chills?
one. Nah, definitely not in this room.
No, it is a sauna in here. But while I was watching it, I felt a little cold. I realized I was under the vent. And I moved. But I still got a few chills. Because winter's here, Sean. It took 6 seasons.
I haven't seen winter in like 4 years.
It took 6 seasons since 2011, but winter's finally here. Hashtag. This is going to be a good season.
Yeah. Eric Dondarrion's back.
Oh, he's got that flame sword.
Yeah, I think that's where it's called, the Lightbringer.
Yeah, I believe it is. There's also, we've seen more of what we already knew was coming, the war between, Cersei and then Daenerys.
Yeah.
But we definitely get a lot more, like...
You see her at Dragonstone.
Yeah.
Supposedly where she was born.
See those dragons again? Specifically the one.
The only one she cares about.
Yeah, she does. It's big now, though. All that love. I imagine the other ones are just really tiny.
All those goats and children that thing's been eating.
Like, he's just acting out, she said. He'll be back. And he is. He's back and bigger than ever. This dragon looks amazing. I almost kind of forgot that I was watching a trailer for a TV show. Which I guess, there's only going to be 7 episodes in this season. I guess maybe that's kind of why, is so they could allocate the budget towards all these episodes and we get this kind of stuff. Because I imagine this season's just going to be the war. I don't imagine with only 7 episodes, there's going to be a lot of dicking around. We're just going to get straight into things. And I couldn't be happier. There was a small scene. I don't know who else it would be, but like we see Bran out in the forest doing his warging or whatever. That's what it's called, right? He wargs. But there's a person with him, just kind of standing next to him. But it's not the girl. I don't know who else it could be though.
Do you actually see their face? Or?
No, you just see the back. It's a man.
It isn't Benjen, is it?
I don't imagine it'd be Benjen because he left recently, and it didn't look like the kind of stuff he would wear. Yeah. Because I think he went the other way anyway. So it almost kind of looked like another. What was the name of that guy? The Crow or the Raven? What's his name?
Three-eyed Raven.
The Three-eyed Raven. It almost kind of looked like someone wearing that kind of getup, but we know he got slashed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he's just back in time again, and he can talk to him that way because he can do that now. I don't know. That's kind of the more. I already have a sense of what everything else is going on because that's the stories we've been following. But this new element of what Bran can do with his powers was just kind of introduced in the last season as far as what all it can do. And I imagine we're going to get more of that and how that plays into it. And I really want to see that. I'd also like to see him walk again so other people don't get hurt carrying him around. Selfish. But yeah, it looks like a really great trailer. July 16th. Can't wait. I'll be over at your house, Sean, with popcorn and all.
Why would you be over at my house? We don't have HBO. I'm coming over here.
You will, because I'm paying for it. By that, I mean...
Oh, there you go.
But I mean, you're paying for it.
I
took your wallet.
Dang it.
Well, that's all the news we got, Sean. I think it is. Do you have anything else?
See this ring on my finger?
No.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get engaged. Moving on.
Oh. All right. Well, if that's all the news we got, and I've made fun of you enough for right now, we maybe get into our main topic, which we mentioned last week was going to be the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy.
The Spider-Man Raimi trilogy. Oh, Spider-Man Raimi.
It's my favorite one.
I love me some Spider-Man Raimi. He's a good guy.
Spidey Ram.
Sam Raimi. So...
Now, as we did last time with the Dark Knight trilogy, Sean, I'm going to pull up various facts and just mention them to you throughout the episode.
Okay. Well, before we actually jump into the individual movies themselves, how do you feel about the trilogy as a whole?
Well, we both went back and rewatched it. This is actually the first time since I watched it since they came out.
So, you've only seen these movies like once, huh?
Once. I feel like I saw one of them twice in theaters, but yeah, I hadn't seen them past that. So yeah, this was actually... I've always heard that they didn't age that well, and in a way I'm kind of inclined to agree that. But at the same time, overall, I'd say I had fun with it. It wasn't a chore at all. The first two went by quick, and the third one started to drag a little. Mm-hmm. But after that, I was fine. The third one's the
longest. It's I think it's like 19 minutes longer than the second one.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I watched the 2.1 cut with those extended scenes, Sean, and it was longer. But even then, it went by quicker than that third one. But we'll kind of get into reasons why. What about you? How'd you feel going back and watching them all the way through?
Yeah, I had fun. They're products of their time, definitely. And I say that oddly because I grew up with these movies. Yeah, I mean, the first Spider-Man came out, I was in the 5th grade, so...
Yeah, it would have been 2002.
Yeah, I was, this was a big part of my childhood. Like, this movie was huge.
And at the time, this was like the only good superhero film.
Well, no, you
had like the
first X-Men came out in 2000.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mean, whether you hate these movies or love them, the impact they've had on this genre is incredible. I think, as far as the actual cast of these movies go, Tobey Maguire, I didn't hate him as much as I was expecting to. He's fine for what he's given, in all honesty.
I think he's a better Peter Parker than Andrew Garfield, but Andrew Garfield's a better Spider-Man.
Yeah. There's not a lot of quipping.
No.
Kirsten Dunst.
She's there.
She's not great. And I think a huge problem this trilogy has as a whole, the plot of each of these movies is the same.
It's all about Mary Jane.
Yeah, somebody who has some kind of relationship with Peter turns into the villain.
By an accident of science.
Yeah, and during the middle of this, Peter's struggling with his powers in some way, like some conflict of him being Spider-Man. And then the villain kidnaps Mary Jane, and he has to rescue Mary Jane. In a nutshell, that's the plot of each of these 3 movies. I think overall, most of the villains are cast well. I say most. There's one obvious one that was not cast well, which we'll get into. But yeah, these will kind of hold a special place in my heart, going back to my childhood always.
Yeah, they're fun, and they kind of. This was before, like we mentioned on the Dark Knight episode. That was kind of when superhero movies got rebooted into kind of what they are now. Before then, they always kind of had this campy tone. Mm-hmm. This one kind of... It's very campy.
Yeah.
But it does kind of have elements of these more serious ideas and themes.
Yeah. And Sam Raimi, you look at some of his other movies like The Evil Dead and stuff, I think it's fair to say he enjoys camp.
Yeah. And one thing I actually kind of like about these films compared to the Amazing Spider-Man... It's not a trilogy. What is it? Duology. Is that they kind of have this distinct taste. Like, I look at these films, I watch all these films, and I was like, a specific director made these. Like, he definitely has his own style in each of these films. Whereas in the Amazing Spider-Man films, I couldn't tell you who made those. There's not really anything that sets them apart from like your standard superhero movie. other than that they're bad. But with these, like he did The Evil Dead. That was kind of like one of his first big films. He's known for genuinely like horror, and there's a lot of scenes in all these films that you can kind of see that. And ones that come to mind is the stuff the Green Goblin does to other people when he attacks. Like, I think he throws a bomb at one point, and then you see a flash of light, and there's just skeletons that just drop to the ground. Like, as a kid, that's terrifying. And then just the voice and the design of the suit's not that great, but seeing Willem Dafoe's face is scary enough, in my opinion. But then it carries over into like Spider-Man 2 and 3 with the hospital scene from Spider-Man 2 is really tense. And just the sounds that Venom makes from like when you don't see him on screen, just kind of trying to figure out where he's at and everything. It all has that aspect of horror to it.
Yeah.
And I like that.
How do you think the special effects hold up?
I think it got better with time. I think the major issues with this or anything like movies during early 2000s is we relied too heavily on CGI when it really wasn't.
There's a lot of practical stuff.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. When something is all CGI, there's not. It's almost like the texturing wasn't there at that point.
Especially when you go back to the first one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a scene early on, and I mean we'll get more into this when we talk about the movies individually. Where like it's just Peter when he's chasing the criminal, the guy who shot Uncle Ben, and he's spinning around flagpoles and all this, and it looks really bad.
Yeah, like you said, the texturing's not there, so it's all kind of like weirdly slick and uncanny. Like you see a person, it's all there, but you can just tell that that's not real. It's all uncanny valley. And like I said, it gets better with time.
I think by the time you got to the third one, the web swinging looked really good.
Yeah, even in the second one, there's definitely a lot of improvements between. And that was only 2 years between the first and the second one. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, that's not something I necessarily fault him for, but I do notice it. Well, speaking of characters, Sean, before we get straight to the first film, there's a character who wasn't in this film that was supposed to be. Do you know who that is?
In the first one?
Yeah.
No.
It's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had this weird deal with Fox, or Sony has this weird deal with Fox where they were supposed to have Hugh Jackman show up and have a cameo role, and Hugh Jackman arrived to film his scene that day, but they canceled it because they couldn't find a Wolverine costume. Couldn't they just make one?
Well, there's a deleted scene from the first Fantastic Four where Mr. Fantastic, he stretches his face into Hugh Jackman's face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was back, I guess, when, universes weren't a thing, and I guess studios didn't really care.
Yeah, they're like, you want to borrow this character? That's fine. It'll help us. But now we're all stingy with it. But, yeah. So I guess we'll just start with the first one, kind of go over some stories, some characters, effects some more, and then move on. Let's piece together the story just really quickly, Sean.
Well,
you say a point, and then I'll add to it, and then we'll keep going until we think we got the entire gist of the story.
He's bitten by a spider.
He's a nerd.
Takes his glasses off.
He's not a nerd.
He gets into a fight with a bully.
He wins the fight.
He needs a car.
He goes wrestling for the car.
He doesn't get all the money.
He gets upset. Lets the robber go.
That robber shoots Uncle Ben.
He's sad. Tobey Maguire face.
He chases after the robber. The robber falls down.
Did he kill him? Did he not? Who's to say?
He didn't.
Oh. And then he's like, I've got responsibility. I'll be Spider-Man. Anything else?
Norman Osborn becomes the Green Goblin.
He's angry. There's a lot of angry people in these films. A lot of sad, angry people. Oh, MJ's there.
Yep.
She gets kidnapped.
He holds her over a bridge with some children.
Who does he choose? MJ, of course.
But he saves the kids.
I mean, he's got time.
Goblin's killed.
Killed himself. Harry's upset.
Funeral. End of movie.
Yep. It's pretty good.
So, you know what I really stuck out to me while watching this first one?
What's that?
How efficient this movie is. I don't think there's a line of dialogue wasted in this movie. Everything is just focused on moving the plot forward.
Yeah. I kind of realized that only after I started watching the second one. There's a very similar kind of feel to it, and I love it. I think that's what made them go by as fast as they did, is because it isn't wasted. Everything that happens pretty much moves the plot along and kind of sets up a relationship that normally, I kind of noticed it in the first movie that Harry and Peter, there wasn't a lot of them necessarily bonding, but at no point did someone have to go, he's my best friend, like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I already got a sense that they were pretty good friends.
Well, I mean, in the first one, just how quickly they go into stuff, like, Peter gets bit by a spider.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get one quick scene with Norman, and then in the next scene, he's turned into the Green Goblin. He's just testing the gas on him.
Yeah, and there's a reason why he tested it on himself and kind of what it does to him. And I like how they handled the character of the Green Goblin. It wasn't necessarily a secret from us, but they did kind of keep it a secret from even him for a minute. The only thing I don't like about the character is the costume, but I guess I understand why they did it at the time. Was just kind of the thing to do. They didn't think the whole goblin face would work.
Yeah. Well, you can look this up on YouTube. They actually did make an animatronic puppet.
Yeah. And it moves its mouth and everything.
Yeah. And who knows how that would have looked on film, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the actual spider, that's not a CGI spider. That's an actual spider that they put to sleep, and then somebody painted it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's belongs to the Stedosa genus.
So the spider actually bite him?
I don't think it actually bit him, but it was a real spider.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Whose job was it to paint a spider that day? That's awesome.
Guess what you doing, Jeff? Like, am I painting another spider? Yeah.
Like, well, we stepped on the last one. Oh, no, that's really cool, though.
That's when I said that there's just you'd be surprised some
of the stuff they actually do. Yeah. And I mentioned kind of earlier there is bad CGI in this, and you agreed, but there are a lot of practical effects with this. I believe the scene with the glider, like, don't they just use the wires and stuff to do that? Really, the only CGI I notice in this film is the web swinging.
Yeah.
And,
well, I think in certain scenes, it's actually a fishing line they use sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. To give that effect where it shimmers.
Okay. Speaking of webbing, how do you feel about the organic webs?
Here's what Sam Raimi had to say, because he was asked about this, about why he didn't have Peter
design his web shooters.
It, yeah. According to him, he's like, he didn't find it believable that a kid in high school would make this incredible, design that would put like a bunch of architectures out of business, basically. Something that would probably cost like $3 million to develop.
He made it in his garage.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, you're making a movie about a teenager who gets bitten by a spider. But that's fun. Actually, I don't mind it. Like I said, I feel like that caters more to Sam Raimi's style, is to have these close-up scenes of web coming out of someone's wrist. It's not necessarily horror, but just that weird, just to see that just kind of makes you feel uneasy at first. And I think that's kind of why he did that, is because just like the scenes with the goblin, the suit itself I don't like, but how it's used and how it just kind of shows up and pops up in your face is kind of scary, especially as a kid. I remember the scene where he goes to say, he hears the woman screaming in the fire, and he goes to save her, and she has the cloak on, and he touches her on the shoulder, and then the goblin immediately turns around and screams. That's like, as a kid, that scared the crap out of me. But it works.
Yeah, and as far as the suit itself goes, part of that was Willem Dafoe's idea. He wanted a more athletic, streamlined-looking suit.
Yeah, and something not as clunky as what they originally made. I think Willem Dafoe is probably the best cast person in this movie.
Yeah, he really hams it up a lot when he's, like, in the mirror.
Yeah, I love those scenes, though. He takes a sip and throws the glass away.
And he has the perfect face for the role, too, just how he twists his, the corners of his mouth and everything.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But, not to say that the other actors are bad. I liked Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, and I think that kind of just goes to how campy this film was and how much of a nerd they made him. It was kind of like a throwback to the original comics where people were making fun of his sweater vest and everything. But some of his acting is just, he can't do it. The scene where Uncle Ben dies in particular it's not great.
No.
I think he can kind of bring his voice down and everything, and kind of, you have this tone in his voice like he wants to cry or whatever, but when he actually starts crying is where
he does a lot in this movie.
He doesn't cry so much.
So first few minutes of this movie, when he's in high school, it's a trip back to the early 2000s. Everybody's got frosted tips.
Joe Manganiello's in there. He's got his popped collar.
And I guess this sticks out more to me now than it would back then. Tobey Maguire does not look like a teenager at all.
Well, none of them did.
No, none of them did. But when they're at the on the field trip, the teacher looks the same age as them.
You know what really makes me laugh, in that, especially the high school stuff in this film, is the fact that everybody's an asshole to him.
Yeah.
I think it's when he's getting on the bus and he's looking for a seat, and you have that one guy who's eating the jelly donut who's just like, But then you have the one girl who looks even nerdier than him, and she's just like, no way, geek. Get out of here. Like, this is a very angry version of New York in general. Yeah. Everyone's against this kid. There's no reason why that bus driver shouldn't stop to pick him up. It's funny,
he would
though.
be fired.
Yeah. But it's funny. Like, to go back to think that back then it was supposed to be, we were supposed to take that seriously would be ridiculous now, but it's kind of fun to watch. I had a good time rewatching those scenes, even though they were ridiculous. I like the cafeteria scene where he catches all the stuff on the plate. It's real.
Did that, yeah.
Took 156 takes. Like, that's something I don't know if I would have stuck with that. I probably would just someone CGI this banana on here. But no, that's really cool to see it. How do you like the Mary Jane and Peter Parker relationship?
I don't know if especially as the series goes on, my voice cracked. I went through puberty again.
Just like Tobey Maguire.
I don't know if I buy that they would still be attracted to each other as it goes on. I understand as far as a high school crush goes.
But as far as her paying attention to him?
Yeah, and she's not the greatest version of Mary Jane. She doesn't have that, self-confidence that the character's supposed to have.
No, that's kind of what initially attracts Peter to her, is how strong she seems and everything.
But if I hear, hang on, Mary Jane.
It's in every movie.
One more time.
It's in every single movie.
Yeah. Kirsten Dunst isn't great in these movies, in all honesty. There's some really just bad reading of the dialogue.
She kind of has this dead look in her eyes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of he'll show up and her voice will go up a few octaves really quickly whenever she turns around and sees somebody.
Yeah. And not even that it's, like you said, she didn't necessarily do a lot for the role. She didn't really bring anything original to it. The way she's written is, I guess how a lot of superhero films were written back then is just, she's the damsel in distress. Yeah. That's all she's there for. They kind of give her more stuff to do in the later movies, but even then it's just feel bad for me, help me, save me. There's just nothing interesting about that character except, kind of what Peter's going to do to kind of prove that he is in love with her. But then he, later on he decides he can't be with her. All that stuff is that's what it's mainly there for, I think. You know who his best girl is in this movie, though? Old Aunt May.
Aunt May. Rosemary Harris. Is she still alive?
Yeah, she is. She's 89.
Okay.
I checked when I was watching these because I wasn't sure. The guy who played Uncle Ben is dead, though.
Yeah.
Cliff Robertson.
Well, he was 75 in those movies, and at the beginning they say he's 68.
Yeah.
And he looks about 60. Apparently they used tried to make him look younger than he actually was.
Yeah, I read that as well. Or maybe they altered him. Yeah, they made him older.
Yeah, because he looked a lot younger than 75.
That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless he just looked kind of young for his age. But no, he's the best version of Uncle Ben for sure. Yeah. We've only had the two. Who knows if we'll get a third one in these next Spider-Man films. Probably, if Sony has anything to say about it. But I think the Uncle Ben stuff here is used well. Whereas in the Amazing Spider-Man films, they kind of knew we didn't want to see it. But they felt the need to just throw something in there, so it didn't really work at all. But you always hear kind of how much Aunt May and Uncle Ben loved each other and everything. There's just a couple scenes in here that kind of really... It's just them talking, just like a normal day, but it kind of gets that across to me.
Yeah, and they talk to each other like...
They're a couple.
Yeah, they've been together for years, just how they insult each other lovingly.
Yeah, and they bicker, but it's all just kind of playful. So I think that all works. She definitely looks like Aunt May. She's in the hospital at one point like Aunt May. And I like the motherly role she plays throughout this entire trilogy, even if it is just kind of why is he always going over here? No, I think overall that works really well, like it didn't in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the duology. And then, of course, we have Pete's best pal, Harry, which we kind of mentioned.
James Franco.
Yeah. How'd you feel about him in this first movie?
He's not bad.
Yeah, he's not.
James Franco, this was back when I guess he actually tried.
This is right off Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, James Franco now, you can tell when he's just showing up for a paycheck and when he actually cares about the role.
Yeah, he's not happy unless he's making one of the Seth Rogen films where he just gets to dick around for a while and make money.
But yeah, he's actually putting forth effort here.
Yeah, I could feel an actual friendship between the two, but and I didn't necessarily notice this until I rewatched it, that even from the very first movie, Harry's kind of a dick to Peter. He's always kind of looking out for himself first, even though he claims to be Pete's good friend. But Peter doesn't necessarily see that until time goes by. And that's interesting, especially how they play into it later on in a less interesting way. Overall, I really like these films.
Yeah, so, you know, you can look this up on YouTube. There was a teaser for the movie in which the camera, you see a helicopter, and it gets stuck, and the camera slowly pans out, and you realize it's webbing, and it pans out a little bit more, and you realize that the helicopter is stuck in webbing in between the Twin Towers.
Oh, yeah.
That was shot before 9/11.
And then they took it down.
And they immediately pulled it. And there's some posters where you see the reflection of New York skyline and, like, Peter Parker's eyes with the Spider-Man mask on, and it has the Twin Towers in there.
Oh, okay.
Those actually exist, and some people own them. They're worth money now. But yeah, so this movie, of course, came a year after 9/11, and there's an obvious amount of patriotism in this movie. The moment where the New Yorkers are throwing trash at Green Goblin.
Saving the day.
You know, like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah.
That was written specifically for, you know, the 9/11.
I think at the end he goes by the American flag at one point. He stands
in front. Throughout this whole trilogy, there's a lot of him standing in front of the American flag.
Yeah. I guess watching that, I don't know, as like a, you know, kind of a foreign viewer, if that would, some people get upset about that kind of stuff, but I guess at the time I can understand why it was important to throw it in there because of the setting of the city. I'm sure it did kind of make a lot of people happy in specifically New York. So, like, it's just another thing that's of its time. And it doesn't necessarily... The only thing that really just kind of stood out to me is just odd is the whole throwing the trash at the goblin thing. But it didn't ruin the film. And the American flag stuff is just kind of passing by. So I'm fine with that as well. How were the fights for you with the Green Goblin in this film?
I mean, they're overall pretty good. The last one is actually pretty brutal.
That's a lot of practical as well, that set and everything.
Yeah. Especially you can tell that's a stage set just by looking at it.
Yeah, but it's interesting to watch, because he's been swinging around, he's been gliding around, throwing the bombs, and this is just kind of a brute fist-to-fist fight.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. Even when, like, at the end, like, how this fight ends is just, it's not easy to watch. Watch him get skewered by that glider. It is kind of funny, though, and one thing I noticed about these films that I wanted to bring up, and the editing in these movies are kind of odd. I guess they're just very 2000s, where you'll have these weird cuts that, like these digital zooms that go straight into, like, Willem Dafoe's face right before he gets hit with the glider. I don't know if it's in this one, but at one point, Peter's walking down the street, and it has him walking, and then next to him, it fades in close-ups of him at the same time. Like, you don't see that in movies today. There's a lot of fades in this movie. Like I said, it's just something I kind of noticed, where instead of fading to black, it just kind of fades into another scene on it, like, immediately. Yeah. I didn't see it a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned the Twin Tower thing. I think that was probably originally going to be in the movie. I think that was how Spider-Man was going to announce himself to New York. Because if you pay attention to the movie itself, Spider-Man just kind of shows up. There's no really moment where he's like, I'm Spider-Man, I'm saving people now.
Yeah, it just kind of goes into the montage of him helping people, that's right. I guess so. But why wouldn't they just... I guess maybe they didn't have time to film another scene that did that? That didn't involve the Twin Towers? I don't know. That is interesting. But the thing is, I didn't really notice it And so I guess that kind of speaks to how it was filmed and the structure of the story is, yeah, I'm kept entertained the whole time, and it flows. You know, the Spider-Man stuff itself, kind of how him losing Uncle Ben and becoming this hero, and the Mary Jane stuff aside, like, it all works for me.
Yeah.
Like, this movie would not be accepted now if this exact same movie came out today. It would get bashed by critics and by us probably, but something of this time works. So yeah, it's good stuff. You got anything else to add? You took my fact about the New Yorkers, so I'm out of facts for this movie.
It's a pretty good movie, Snoop.
Oh, okay, good. Well, maybe we should get into the next movie then, Sean.
Spider-Man 2, 2004.
Yeah.
2005.
This one got, I think at the time, and this might still be true, is this one was the first movie to get like a 100 million opening or something, like weekend, I guess. And I think now, like, that was still the first movie to do that, even like accounting inflation or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, well, it was thought to be impossible for a movie to make 200 million domestically at the box office until Avengers broke it.
Yeah.
And a few movies have done it since then. But
yeah. You know what I like about this film starting off is it takes everything that happened to the character from the first film and builds on that, which I don't, we have a tendency to retread certain things, but like this was a true continuation of that story.
There's an actual focus on Peter Parker's life in this as opposed to the first one. Like if he actually was this character, how it would affect his personal life, how it's affecting his grades, his romantic life, his just, trying to have a friend. Yeah,
it's all just kind of taking a back seat because he feels this...
He has this responsibility.
Yeah. And he's struggling with it because, he feels like he has to do it, and that's what kind of... I don't know, have there been any comics that have kind of covered this aspect of Peter losing his powers psychologically?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Don't quote me on that. This is based on... I can't tell you the name of the comic off the top of my head.
Spider-Man No More.
Okay. Yeah. Where he, the scene where he throws it in the trash and you see him walking.
Homage.
Yeah. And I don't like that psychologically he loses his powers. I think
it is kind of odd that he can just get him back. I like the concept more than the execution.
I would be fine with him just giving up being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That would work better for me.
Yeah. Like I said, the idea I really like, especially because it does build on this whole first movie. It was him becoming Spider-Man, and now he's struggling with should he keep doing it because the city doesn't even like him, for the most part. That's what he feels. He feels that his personal life is being destroyed and people aren't even thanking him for it. And he has to realize that this is a thankless job that he has to do. And, he has... One thing that kills me about these movies and it is some of these goofy montages he has throughout them. This is the one where he's walking. It's where they play the raindrops, Keep Falling on My Head song. That's where he just walks and trips and falls down and then has him walking in slow motion. But to kind of have these montages, they're silly, but it does kind of have a point where you see the cop cars go by at one point and he walks away from it instead of going towards it. And he's supposed to think like, this is good. My life is so much better than it's been recently because I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah. And then he slowly realizes that there's a reason he was doing this. How did you feel about everyone else? Other people had other stuff to do, obviously. You want to go ahead and get into the villain?
Yeah, Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, he knocked it out of the park in this movie.
So good.
He might be my favorite villain in this entire trilogy.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a common characteristic of Dr. Octopus, who he plays, is they like to make him into the sympathetic character at times, and that's kind of what they did here, and I really, really like it. I don't necessarily like that he's another accident of science, and he happened to know Peter. That whole trend is just kind of weird to me.
And that's throughout this whole trilogy.
Yeah, that's what, like I said, that trend overall is kind of annoying to me. But for this story, I get how it works, because if he didn't know Peter, he wouldn't have turned at the... I don't think he would have turned at the end. He wouldn't have been able to kind of talk him down. But he's a man who... He devoted his life to one thing, and it kind of made him arrogant, because he had people, Peter included, kind of mentioning like, well, what if this goes wrong? What if you don't plan for this? And he's like, this is my entire life's work. I know exactly what I'm doing. Shut up. And everything does go wrong, and he loses his wife, and he feels like all he has left is that experiment, and he has to pursue that, and that's what makes him go insane. Well, that and the gigantic octopus claws. I'm sure that didn't help.
Speaking of which, the scene where before his experiment goes wrong, and he puts on the octopus claws, and they ask him, how are they not going to take over? He's like, well, I have this chip right here that lets me control. It's like, that's an amazing piece of that's something you see in movies where they characters create some kind of amazing piece of technology to aid them in another piece of technology. Like, he's created a chip that allows him to control technology with his brain.
But we're going to brush over that because he's got to turn on these lights real quick. Yeah, I thought about that even when the claws themselves came out, because no one had seen those before. Yeah. They're like, what are these things? They're like, oh, they just help me contain the fusion reactor. Like, do you know what you could do with this? Yeah. But we kind of see that's kind of, again, like, this technology is his undoing, because the fusion reactor, he can't contain it, and that's what makes the arms go berserk. And I don't know, I really like this aspect of, I know it's because he's insane, obviously, and the claws are more or less, they have a lot to do with it. But he honestly believes that this is what he needs to, like, this is the right thing to do, is to finish his experiment. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's necessarily, if it's supposed to be for him, or because, his wife died because of it, and he feels the need to kind of, I guess, keep a promise to her and do it. But I like this aspect of he's doing something what he believes is right. And they've covered that in another comic recently. Was it the Superior Spider-Man, where for whatever reason, Doc Ock's brain gets transferred into Peter Parker's body, and he decides that he can be a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And it's him just realizing over time that this isn't what as easy as he thought it was going to be. So that's a good comic you guys should check out. You too, Sean?
Uh-huh. You know what character we haven't mentioned yet?
Aunt May.
J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah
Oh, God dang it. That's comic book casting.
That might be the most spot-on casting of any character ever from a comic book.
I can't believe we forgot about that.
He nails that role.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The look, too, is just dead on. Oh, and he's kind of thrown in there for just, like, this comedic relief, this dickhead to Peter, but I love that character.
And I think that's partly why they never cast him in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Is you can't top that.
No, you really can't, unless you can get him back. But they couldn't, they didn't try to. But yeah, that's amazing. I watched the 2.1 version of this, which has the extended scenes, and there's only like 6 minutes worth. But one of the famous ones is where after Spider-Man puts the suit in the trash, you have that homeless person who comes to the Daily Bugle and sells it to Jameson. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where he puts the suit on and is just jumping around in it. So it's just J.K. Simmons in a skin-tight Spider-Man suit, but he doesn't have the mask on, and he's got a cigar in his mouth, and he's pretending to web the buildings. It's great. It's just kind of a throwaway scene during a montage, but it's amazing. In this one, let's see, in the first one, he hires Peter to be freelance. Is this, I don't remember, is he still freelance at this point?
Yeah, he gets a job, like an actual office job in the third one.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's a good thing about these movies as a whole, is the entire Daily Bugle. You kind of get to see the whole staff. You get Betty Brant, Robbie Robertson. They're all there.
The guy who plays Robbie's really good, actually. Yeah. And that's the thing. These characters don't have even Jameson, which might be kind of why we forgot about him, is they don't have a lot of screen time, but they do a lot with it in such a short amount of time. Like, you're able to kind of see this dynamic of, you have Jameson who's the boss and makes all the calls, and Betty Brant's his assistant who kind of keeps him in line.
Yeah.
Well, him and his wife, who we never see.
Oh, there's that one, I can't remember which of the three movies it's from, but there's one line where he's like, "What do you mean my wife lost my checkbook?" Good.
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah, I think it's in the second one, but it's just, and I feel like that's how this place, like a job like this would function, is everyone's in and out constantly, like saying, "Hey, I'm going to go do this. Okay, good, get out of here." just to see how newspapers and everything work. But then you have that one guy who's Sam Raimi's brother, or his cousin, someone he's related to him. The Hoffman guy who's kind of the suck up.
Yeah.
He's his brother, I think. Ted Raimi. And then I really like Robbie, who's just this one guy who's kind of, sticking up for Spider-Man. But at the same time, he has to do his job. So
yeah,
it's really good stuff, man.
Yeah, it kind of, usually that character in the comics kind of keeps J. Jonah Jameson from, like, going a little bit too far into, like, over the edge of being a little bit immoral. Yeah,
exactly. And you get a sense of that. And Elizabeth Banks is Betty Brant, too.
Yeah.
That's really fun. There's a lot of people in throughout these movies who are kind of slightly big actors now. Do you know that Octavia Spencer is in the first movie?
As who?
She's the one who signs him up and says, like, get out of here, small fry, with the wrestling match, who he goes against Macho Man Randy Savage.
Okay.
Oh, yeah!
That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people, just kind of showed up in these films, and now to go back and watch them has just been kind of interesting to see where they are now.
So how do you feel about Peter's best friend?
Oh, wow.
Harry, in this movie as his story progresses.
I actually, in this one, I thought he was fine. I think he kind of, because the last film ends with him thinking Spider-Man killed his dad. And it is weird, this immense hatred he has for him. Yeah. I mean, obviously he thinks he murdered his dad, so I get it. But it does feel like it developed kind of quickly. But we don't know how much time passed between in these films, really. It's always kind of kept vague.
No, it's 2 years.
Is it 2 years for this one?
Yeah.
All right, well, I know nothing. One thing I can definitely say for sure, though, is this is James Franco's best hair in this film. But I again, like, even from the first film, you got this idea of Harry got a lot from his father as far as his personality. He's just kind of full of himself and believes himself to be right over everything. And that carries over into this film where he's convinced that Spider-Man killed him and he'll do anything to get his hands on him. But even just talking to, he's backing Otto's experiment. And even when he's talking to him, he's like, hey, here's my friend Peter. Show him around. He just tells him. And then he's just like, you'll show him around because I'm paying your bills and everything. He's just kind of a narcissistic douche.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like he actually acted in this one still. What do you think?
Yeah. That train fight, that still holds up.
That, I was about to say, as far as action sequences go, the CGI in this got a lot better, even the web swing, but that train sequence is the best fight in all of these films to me.
Yeah.
It's just, and it goes on, too. Like, it's not something that's really quick. It goes on for a few minutes, and they use the whole environment around them to fight. Just jumping on and on the sides of the train as it's going. He gets knocked off a couple times and has to swing his way back. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
The, I really like the ending of that fight, too, where he passes out and the crowd carries him over with his mask off. I think that's a good scene.
The Danny Elfman soundtrack in the background.
Yep.
That's got best Tobey Maguire face in it, too, when he stops that train. He takes his mask off a lot in this one.
Yeah.
Just wanted to see that pretty face. He wasn't even supposed to be in this one, Tobey Maguire. He was almost recast.
Didn't he break his back?
He hurt his back, and he was going to have to drop out. And that's where Jake Gyllenhaal was going to come in. And I guess at the last second, he's like, no, I can do this because I'll make millions. But it's funny, though, that scene where he's like, okay, I have to be Spider-Man again, and he tries to get his powers back, and he jumps off the building and then falls and hits the cars.
Yeah.
He's like, my back? Apparently that was just coincidental. They didn't just write that in due to his injuries. One more scene I kind of definitely want to cover on this. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie besides the train fight is the Doc Ock hospital scene. That's amazing to me. Just where to see the arms come to life and kill all those people. Yeah. That was apparently one of the first scenes filmed for this movie. And Sam Raimi came up with it himself. And that's what I'm saying. That is straight out of a horror film.
There's like doctors being dragged into darkness and stuff.
Yeah, and you see her digging into the ground so hard that it pulls it up. And the shadows of the claws moving around, killing people, but you don't actually see him get murdered. It's really great. And also, and he talks about this in in different interviews is he wanted to make sure that scene came across that the arms were the ones doing it, and not Otto Octavius.
Yeah, because he's asleep the whole time.
Yeah, he's got you see him, there's like a cut where you see him on the hospital bed face down and the things around his eyes. So that's it. It's crazy. Like, that's mostly all practical. I know the tentacles themselves are a mix of puppetry and CGI. They had each person manipulate one of those arms, and then CGI, like, I guess the more like details and sheen later on. But I don't think a lot of people kind of go to that effort today when they can do all of it CGI. Or if you're in a prequel trilogy.
Oh, you know what
Star
else
Wars.
they also actually did in this movie?
What's that?
The scene where Aunt May is, she's trapped on the side of the building.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they used green screen, I think, but Rosemary Harris, she actually
did those stunts.
Yeah, and her, like, coming down, like, swinging down with Peter Parker. She actually did all the wire work and everything herself.
Yeah, she wanted to.
Yeah, they offered, to do a stunt double. She's like, nope.
I'm getting in there. Which is pretty impressive, because, let's see, she's 89 now, so that would have been 2004. Or no, 2003 when they filmed it. So, I mean, she's still on up there.
Yeah.
I really like her Aunt May. That has it's got a good Aunt May, and they all have one good Aunt May and Peter Parker heart to heart in all of them, I think. This was the one where she was moving out of the apartment, and then she kind of forgives. She's the one who kind of helps convince him to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's another... I feel like they left this vague on purpose throughout this trilogy. Whether she knows or not, yeah. I want to say she knew.
Yeah, I think by the time you get to the second one and she's saved by Spider-Man.
Because he doesn't change his voice.
So I think she was kind of trying to put the pieces together there.
Yeah, I think specifically in that talk they had when she's moving out or whatever, she says something along the lines of basically like the world needs a hero, and she's kind of like looking at him, just like, you need to go save some kids. But it's really great. Even I kind of like it being vague because it works either way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this movie is definitely a step up of everything from the last movie as far as effects and acting is pretty, like you said, Alfred Molina is great in that role. Tobey Maguire, I think, still did a pretty good job in this. Mary Jane's in there too, I guess. We could talk about her some more. I think I like more the implications of the stuff going on around her than what she actually did. I like John Jameson getting involved for that one movie as her love interest. Because I thought that was going to later go into him going into space and bringing back the symbiote.
Nope, it comes back a much dumber way.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah. But again, at the time, I was like, oh, man, they're going to do that thing. And it was fun. Just to, again, more scenes with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, never hurt anyone. That part at the wedding where it's zooming down the altar, and he's just waiting there for her.
He sticks his head out. Yeah.
Oh, that man's great.
Yeah, he's physically very comedic in these movies as well.
He's very animated, which fits this campy tone. They all kind of are. Even just weird scenes where he has to deliver the pizza, and again, this is an awful version of New York. He has to deliver those pizzas in 7 minutes, or else he's fired. And he has to save kids or something real quick, so he drops the pizzas on that ledge, and that one guy's about to eat a slice, and he webs it back. And then later on, where he's getting out of the closet really slowly and has to push the mops back in, and that woman's just like, this is 8 minutes late. I'm not paying for it. But it's kind of funny, but also that's an awful version of New York. People are always hitting other people with cars. I don't approve of it, Sean.
It's one of those things where, again, you only see this in movies where they bump the person and they go flying a few feet and they jump back up.
Yeah. It's good stuff, though. But yeah, Mary Jane in this one is really just about her figuring out it's him, and she loves him, and he loves her, and they can be together after all. You know what's kind of odd to me, though, and I wanted to ask what you thought about this, is the last scene of this movie is her, and just kind of giving a dead-eye look into the camera, and then it fades out. Do you think that was intentional to kind of play into what comes on later, with their relationship, or?
I think that was just Kirsten Dunst. I don't think that was meant to be anything.
Well, she fooled me, because I honestly thought that was playing into the whole relationship drama of the third movie. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an odd scene to throw in there. I would have just faded out where he's swinging. And, she says, go get him, Tiger.
I think this is the only Spider-Man movie that doesn't end with a funeral near the end.
Yeah. I mean, someone dies in every Spider-Man film. Right?
Yeah, but I think this is the only one that...
Yeah, because Doc Ock's the only one that dies, so they don't need to give him a funeral.
I'm talking about all 5 Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Huh. Who do you think's going to die in this next one?
So many.
Can't be Marissa Tomei. I won't stand for it.
So is this your favorite out of the 3?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like I said, I watched the extended version, which I think was about 2.5 hours or a little less, but I didn't even feel the length on this one because I was having a really fun time. I think it's just a better version of the first one, which was campy enough to enjoy.
Yeah, I think on a technical level, this is the best one out of the 3 easily.
Yeah, definitely. Good film. So should we get into that last
Spider-Man
one?
3, you say?
Let's get into the last one that we don't enjoy.
Here's the thing about Spider-Man 3.
Oh, wait. We didn't do it for the last film, but we need to summarize the story in parts.
Oh, we still doing this, Snoop.
Let's give it a go. All right.
For Spider-Man 3?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Jane and Peter, they're on a web, and they get off the web,
and some crashes onto the floor next, or the ground next to him, and then attaches himself to a moped, and then they go home.
You're gonna make me do this, aren't you?
Just the quicker we go, the quicker we get it over with.
Oh, my goodness. So...
You gotta tell him what the story was, Sean.
I saw this the other night. I'm trying to remember. So...
Harry doesn't like Peter.
Harry, he gets, he finds out his dad's stash of the Green Goblin stuff.
So he Green Goblins himself and then goes after Peter, who has a wedding ring.
Yeah, and then he gets knocked out and has amnesia.
And then everything's fine again, but Peter needs to still do Spider-Man and wedding stuff.
But it turns out that the guy they thought that killed Uncle Ben was not the guy. It was another guy.
Yeah, who knew that guy, and now he's on the run, and he has powers, and Peter Parker's mad, and he gets a black suit that makes him even more mad.
Then he thinks he kills the guy. Sandman's his name.
And then he does more bad stuff. Harry gets his memory back. MJ's sad in this film. Isn't a good singer. Other person gets black suit. Round it out, Sean.
Harry becomes good again. He joins Peter. They fight the Venom. They fight Sandman. They save Mary Jane. Harry dies. The movie ends.
Slow dancing.
Yes.
Scene. Okay, good. Now we've got that out of the way. Well, what do you want to talk about next?
Here's the thing about this movie. I don't think the first hour of this movie is actually terrible.
I'll agree with that. I think throughout this film, there's good stuff in it that can make a good movie.
Spider-Man 3 is a movie full of some decent ideas and some
studio ideas.
Good moments that is handicapped by the fact that it is not allowed to focus on any one particular subject.
Yeah, it's very oversaturated with villains.
Sam Raimi famously did not want to use Venom, and he was forced to by the studio. He wanted to just do Sandman.
That's evident in this film.
Yeah, it's obvious that I guess they both get about the same amount of screen time when it comes to their origin, but Sandman, you can tell more effort went into making him sympathetic and interesting.
Yeah, and not necessarily that you needed a sympathetic villain to make him better than Venom, but, I mean, it's obvious that that's the story he wanted to tell.
Yeah, I mean, the theme of this movie is forgiveness.
Yeah.
So,
whereas the last one was choice, and the other one was...
responsibility.
Yep.
So, and I didn't really remember how long this took until I actually sat down and rewatched it again. It's over an hour until the symbiote actually attaches to his suit.
Yeah, it took a while.
And then it's only attached to him for about 40 minutes, which is not nearly long enough to develop any kind of interesting story there.
No, and see, I watched this film. I watched they came out with the editor's cut recently, and it's only 2 minutes shorter, but they kind of try more scenes to make his progression into not necessarily madness, but just, the symbiote taking over. They add in a couple more scenes to kind of show that, but there's just not enough that was filmed to do. That should have been its own movie.
Yeah.
I think what would have made this film a good setup for another Spider-Man film with Venom is have the symbiote in there, have it attach itself to him early on. You can still have all the stuff with, this is Uncle Ben's real killer and whatever. And then towards the end, maybe he realizes, like, you know, this whole movie he's been fucked up in the head because of the symbiote. And
I would have
take
it
off.
end. Yeah, I'd have it end with
Eddie Brock getting taken over.
Introduce Eddie Brock. Don't have it take him over. Introduce him. Have him screwing up his life a lot. And maybe Peter kind of comes to realize that the suit's messing his life up.
Yeah.
And then start the next movie.
Also, he doesn't need emo hair to make us realize that he's gone.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, like you said, there are ideas in this film that work. And the Sandman stuff really is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church is good. Like,
he's got a great shirt.
As Flint Marko, yeah.
Great hair.
The scene where he actually gets transformed into Sandman, that's a beautiful scene.
It still holds up.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I felt for this character basically as soon as he got on screen. Like, you know, where he goes to see his daughter and talks to his wife. You can tell that he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's just been through some bad shit, and he just wants to help his daughter. It's pretty evident.
How do you feel about the whole, it was him that actually killed Uncle Ben?
I don't we talked about this before. I don't like the whole coincidence thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that it had to be him who also gets the Sandman powers, who also has to fight Spider-Man. Like I said, it's just too weird. It's just too contrived to work. But I think you still could have had this character and still kind of had this other stuff. Just have him be a guy who wants to, you know, the reason he was in jail is maybe because he robbed a bank and he got caught because he's robbing the bank for his daughter. And then he gets out and has the Sandman powers and he tries to rob banks again. And then in all of that, have Spider-Man have this more personal journey of having the symbiote take over while also trying to hunt down this guy. And that's why he kills him or thinks he kills him, is because it's not Peter going out for revenge. It's the symbiote just taking him over and amplifying that aggression.
Yeah.
That's what me thinks. There's actually, in the editor's cut, there's actually a scene that's added in with the Sandman that's really good, where it's after Peter thinks he's, you know, killed him with the water and everything. You know, after that, Sandman just kind of goes after him for no reason. You know, he's looking for him.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why he was looking for him, apparently, is because he eventually finds, you know, his daughter and the mom are at this like park or whatever, and she's like, "Okay, hon, go get your stuff. Your dad's also, you know, a piece of shit. Okay, go get your toys." Well, then she goes, and next to the playground is this gigantic sandcastle, and it's him, and he's just using it to see his daughter. And I guess she kind of knows because she puts her hand on the sandcastle at one point, and you see his hand impression form, and they're like, you know, like they're holding hands. And he decides basically from that is if he wants to really be with his daughter again, he has to take out Spider-Man first because he's not going to be able to get the money.
They should have included that. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good, man. I'd look it up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You take out those scenes to add in this just nothing of Peter Parker walking around in fresh new duds, dancing.
So, okay, most people hate that, and I don't enjoy it. But I've heard it explained that, you know, the symbiote, it brings out, you know, the desires and the more avarice aspects of Peter Parker. I've heard it described that that's what Peter Parker would think is cool, him dressing like that.
I've heard that, yeah.
And
pointing at the ladies.
Yeah.
Gum fingers.
And I do like that the ladies, they don't enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, that's actually really good, how they're just like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't think it's executed greatly.
No, also, the thing about the symbiote is, and this is just more of a personal thing, I think having the symbiote form his costume and actually be like a part of him or whatever works better than him just putting it on and taking it off and then putting it away. I think if it's constantly with him, then you could take the whole film to actually have it. You could have it start out small, like maybe some one little thing just kind of makes him mad. Instead of just, he puts it on and he gets the emo hair and he's just full blown rage monster and hits Mary Jane in a diner. It's just too sudden, especially when you point out that it took an hour for him to even get it.
Going back to the very beginning of this movie, it's really dumb that this thing just happens to land right where of all the place. Not just on this planet when you think about it, but the whole universe, because it comes from a meteor. It just happens to land right next to him.
Which I think they mention is that like Dr. Connors is researching it throughout the film, and he's just like, oh, it came from a meteorite like these in the 70s.
Yeah.
Don't let this touch you. It'll give you bad fashion sense. And it's just dumb, especially when you have, because I know they did this in the animated series, the 90s one. How he gets the suit in that is he saves John Jameson, who the symbiote attacks in space on a mission. And then that's why it gets on him, is because he was around. And it's attracted to him specifically because it goes after the strongest host, which obviously in New York is going to be Peter Parker because he has the powers. Yeah. But they don't even take the time to even kind of suggest that.
Yeah, they could have literally done one line with Carl. Like, it seems to be attracted to really strong individuals. That's all they need to do.
Yeah. But again, we wanted to... And that could have just been because Sam Raimi was like, fuck you, I didn't want to do this anyway. I think that's what happened, honestly. I think what they could have done is, if they kind of talked to him about it, is, hey, make this movie you want to make first, but then kind of have these undertones of what can set up for a future film. I think he would have maybe been better with that, because he was originally going to do, they tried to do Spider-Man 4.
I want to talk about that later.
Yeah.
So going back to the beginning, that first fight with Harry Osborn.
He doesn't have good hair.
Yeah, the CGI doesn't hold up. That was kind of a interesting fight, though, visually.
Yeah, I thought that too. Like again, it's more down to it definitely looked better than the first Spider-Man, but it's the texturing that's off. But overall, it's fine.
Like, there's a really good moment where, like, he's just keeps going around a building. Like, I don't know if it's meant to be the Empire State Building. It has a needle on it.
Oh,
but he just, like, they have a fight where he just, keeps webbing, like, in a circle around. It looked really good.
Yeah, he's firing the web balls at him.
Yeah.
And that part where he thinks he loses them in the alleyway, and he quickly turns the glider sideways so he can get in between it and keep following him. Like, it's constant in instinct. And I think the thing is, how'd you feel about the whole... Because that's another villain to kind of throw in there.
Yeah, there's technically 3 villains in this movie.
Yeah, how would you have liked them to say that for one more film before kind of getting into it?
You know what? It probably would have worked if it wasn't for Venom being in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially since the theme is forgiveness, because you have Harry forgiving Peter in this.
Yeah.
So I think it would have actually worked if it just was given more time.
Another scene, this one's not as huge as the Sandman scene, but you know how he decides to forgive him is because the butler... Bernard, as they call him, he happened to be there that night when his dad got killed.
I cleaned his wounds, sir.
That man could not act. God bless him.
And it was evident that it was his own glider that pierced his skin. Like, well, why didn't you tell him this years ago?
Yeah. So there's that scene, but the thing is, and I didn't even realize this until I rewatched it, is Peter literally in the beginning of the fight the first time says, hey, I didn't kill him. He tried to kill me, and he killed himself. So why...
Well, I think he said that in the second movie, too, didn't he?
I don't know. He said at the time that Mary Jane was in trouble, and we'll talk about it later. That's what he said.
No, in the first... Because you have the moment where the Dr. Octopus's experiment is going wrong at the beginning, and Peter shows up to save everybody, and he saves Harry.
Oh,
I can't remember if he actually mentions...
I think he just says, I didn't... No, I don't think he says anything. I think he just says... I think Harry tells him, this isn't over, and then... But, yeah, well, he tells him that in the beginning of their fight, but he doesn't believe him, and he keeps going after him. And then, even when he gets his memories back, he doesn't take the time to actually think about what he told him. It's when the butler says it that he decides. So what they did in the editor's cut is they took that whole scene out with the butler, and what they instead threw in was a scene where, after Peter leaves to go get MJ, because he's like, Harry's not going to help me, Harry walks over, and he sees a photo of all 3 of them, and it's cracked, and he starts to cry. And that's how they had him change his mind. Basically kind of seeing what their relationship was.
Yeah.
I think that it's not great, but I think it does work better than the butler just showing up and be like, oh yeah, by the way, I saw your dad kill himself, kind of.
Yeah. And when you think about it, that doesn't even mean that Peter didn't kill him just because it was his blade.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that scene could have... I think they just kind of did it, like rushed into it.
Yeah.
Also, you know how much I hate an amnesia plotline. And this one particularly makes me angry because he forgets everything up to the point where he saw his dad die conveniently. He's just like, my dad died, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then everything else is just like, well, it's been a blur. And he's all super nice again. He's got that James Franco smile.
Making omelets.
Breaking omelets. Catching basketballs one-handed and catching a vase behind his hands. He's still got the move, Sean. There's a lot of odd dialogue in this.
You want to know what's really odd in this movie that made me laugh?
What?
So there's this scene where Sandman, he's walking through just this random alley, and the Venom shows up, and he immediately, like, punches him. And he's like, oh, wait, you're not Spider-Man. Then he turns around and starts walking away. It doesn't even make him, like, flinch that there's this other creature. Yeah. It's just very odd.
There's a lot of odd stuff in here.
I guess we should get into the Venom itself. We haven't talked much about him. Topher Grace is...
You don't like him at all.
No, he's not good at this.
I think the reason why he was picked is because, Venom is the opposite of Spider-Man. He's his rival.
Yeah.
So they were like, what can rival scrawny Tobey Maguire? Scrawny Topher Grace. I think that's literally because they were the same build. But yeah... First of all, you get a huge man as Eddie Brock. Everybody knows that. His biceps should have biceps, Sean. But I can look past that. There's not a lot of scenes with him before he becomes Venom. There's not enough reason to make...
Well, the whole... Yeah, I get that he hates Peter for ruining his career and all that.
And taking his girlfriend that he dated one time.
The scene with him going to the church to pray for that God kills Peter Parker... That's not a good scene.
It's also kind of disturbing to think that there were other people in that church. There's a guy that walks by him at one point. You figured he would have walked up to him and be like, hey, what's bothering you, man? But also, there's the abandoned bell tower right inside the church.
Yeah.
And I know why you went to the church, because Peter Parker literally says, like, get religion at one point if he wants forgiveness or something. Yeah. So it's supposed to be reason enough. But, yeah, that one reason was not enough for any logical person to be like, God, can you kill this man for me because he ratted me out even though I'm the reason I got fired? Like, I get that Eddie Brock is this guy who just kind of thinks the world of himself and only looks out for number one and everything. But I would have much rather had a whole movie about just little instances where... like, Peter messes stuff up for him, either intentionally or unintentionally, and that causes him to hate him over time, and eventually that's, we get into the Venom stuff itself later on. That would have been a whole better movie to me, is just seeing that initial relationship build and then get destroyed. Also, they say Eddie's a new guy in this. He's mentioned in the first movie. There's a line where they're hiring Peter, and they're like, we'll just get a picture. We'll get our other guy to get a picture of Spider-Man. They're like, Eddie's been out on it for weeks and he can't get anything. And then in the third movie, they're just like, we hope no one remembered that line because here's our new guy, Eddie.
Yeah.
And just the suit's no good.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you think of the actual look of the Venom?
It's too Carnage-like. Yeah. It's all slimy and he can make different shit out of it. Like at one point he makes a little net to catch web balls, which is visually it's cool. But again, that's like... Venom should just be this, like, Goliath of a version of, like, an evil Spider-Man. And plus, there's a lot of, we talked about Tobey getting his mask ripped off quite a bit in all these movies. They take Venom's mask off to show Topher Grace and those nasty teeth a lot. Just doesn't work for me.
So, this is the first time you see Gwen Stacy in this universe, played by Bryce Dallas Howard.
I always thought she was Felicia Hardy for some reason. It's just I think it was just a thing.
Yeah, I think it was an afterthought by
Captain Stacy's in there, too.
Yeah. I'd like, hey, this is an important part of the Spider-Man mythos. We need to bring this character in somehow.
I was laughing at the end where, because like you said, this one ends in a funeral with Harry getting killed.
Yeah.
They were at that funeral. It's just weird to see either Gwen or Captain Stacy. Well, them being there is odd, but just to see them alive at a funeral is odd to me.
That's like... Why would you go to a person that you dated once whose friend died? Why would you go to that funeral? Yeah. You didn't know the friend.
Yeah, exactly. There was no interaction between them whatsoever. Yeah. I guess just because Harry was such a big person and with Oscorp and everything.
Maybe.
Also, that company surely would have gone out of business because no one's running it at that point. He's too busy trying to kill Spider-Man and playing basketball. Yeah, I think this was definitely Harry's James Franco's worst performance. He didn't care. No one cared in this one to me.
This movie's 10 years old now. 2007 is when it came out.
Yeah.
So I guess this would have been about the time he just realized he could do whatever.
Yeah,
paycheck.
I think he did. When did he do Pineapple Express? That wasn't long after, I think. I want to say it was a couple years after at most.
Yeah.
And then Kirsten Dunst was done too.
Yeah, she noticeably was phoning it in, even for her in this movie.
Yeah. You know who had the most fun with these movies overall, though? Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
He's great in this film. He's the waiter in this one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that whole scene. I think he's just trying to help him out. He's like, of course I'll help you out. I am French. Do you like the theory that he was supposedly Mysterio? And that's why he was a different person in each film?
Yeah, that would have been neat to explore eventually.
Yeah. We'll get Mysterio eventually. I kind of hope they just bring back Bruce Campbell, though, if that is the case. I'd love to see that. We got another Aunt May, Peter Parker heart-to-heart. One last time.
One that really went on for a while.
Yeah, but if we hadn't seen that scene, how would we know that Uncle Ben was a knockout in his bathing suit, Sean?
Well, I already knew that.
I think it was fine. I like the scene as much as I like maybe not as much as I like the Spider-Man 2 scene, but I think she's a great Aunt May.
Yeah.
She looks the part, she acts the part, it's all there. That's really the only scene she has in the entire movie, I believe. I think she has one more scene at the apartment where she gets the ring back because he says he's not ready or something. But other than that, it was, I enjoy her in these films. She's probably, the interaction between those two characters is probably the best. Any interaction between Peter Parker and Mary Jane, I don't care about, to be honest. That's the problem with these films overall, I think, is they push that relationship too far. Like, it's at the forefront, which I get it because Mary Jane is such a big part of Spider-Man. I do get that. Dan Slott doesn't get that, but I get it. At the same time, though, that's not what I wanted to see. At least not just... That's how this movie ends, is they do a slow dance. Are they back together?
I guess.
I mean, you don't just slow dance with anyone, Sean. I mean, you might, but you have no morals.
Easy there,
I only slow dance with the people I love, Sean.
I always wear protection with slow dancing.
You never know. Yeah, overall, were you upset you watched this one?
I don't have the level of hatred that some people have for this movie. I don't think it's a good movie, but I can latch on to some of the better moments in this movie. Because this was the same year we also got The Last Stand.
So, given our choices, this would have been the better one.
I think this was the better movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I guess it's kind of sad that, I don't know, how would you feel about this franchise continuing? Because, like you mentioned, there was going to be a fourth one. It's supposed to come out in 2011 with the Vulture as the villain.
Yeah, I think it was going to be John Malkovich. At one point, it was Ben Kingsley, and then I honestly don't know. I think if the people involved, because at this point they were pretty much done. Like Tobey Maguire didn't necessarily even want to do this one, I remember, because he's afraid of typecasting. And in a way, he was right. But yeah, I think if they would kind of kept that same energy that they had with the second one, and studios hadn't interfered as much, because that's why the fourth one got canceled, is because they were interfering as much as they did with 3. And
well, Sam Raimi wrote a script for it.
Yeah.
Got that for.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at one point I would have liked to have seen this, but I don't want to see it now. I mean, we're on our third try, Sean. So, I think it's passed. But if you told me that a fourth one was definitely coming after this one, I probably still would have been excited.
Yeah, and I mean, there is other stuff that they were probably going to explore. You know, you had Dylan Baker as Kurt Connors in 2 and 3. So at some point, we were probably going to get the Lizard. Which
we got in the Amazing. Yeah. I think that carried over. I think he was going to be in the fourth one, as well as the Vulture. I think that's what they said. And then it carried over into the Amazing Spider-Man, and that's why we got Reese Ifen, or whatever his name is. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen some of those payoffs. I probably would have liked to have seen some more... I would have eventually liked to see J. Jonah Jameson figure out who Spider-Man was. They've done that before in the comics, and it's actually really interesting. And so that would have been fun to see. So there's definitely stuff there. I think we would have eventually gotten Black Cat as well. So this is all stuff that we're going to get, I'm sure, either in a Spider-Man movie or in a Venom movie. So he really hated Venom, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, you see...
Well, yeah, because you see his actual skeleton.
Yeah.
There's nothing left after that explosion.
Yeah, originally because it's like a frame, and if you pause it, you could see his skeleton get hit by that pumpkin bomb. But originally people were like, oh no, he's alive. He's just going to regenerate. Sam Raimi's like, nope, get that out of here. I don't know why he hates Venom so much. But yeah, it's fine. I will say that I used to hate this film as much as other people. Now I just think it's a bad film, but I see some good in it. So that rewatch did this for me, at least. Overall, really fun 3 films to go through.
I'm curious how these movies would work for somebody younger than us. Like, if somebody was like 12 watching this now, would they still
be interested?
Enjoy these? Yeah.
Oh, that's tough to say. I don't understand kids. I'd like to say they could. I think that's one of the bigger appeals of Spider-Man's character is how he can relate to younger people. And even though Tobey Maguire's not young in these...
Well, I just mean somebody coming up after us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that carries over into multiple generations. Yeah. I think the core aspects of the character they nailed in these films, more so than they did in the Amazing Spider-Man films. So I think more people would like these than the 2 films we've gotten recently.
Those aren't going to age well.
No, they don't age well now.
No, but just certain elements of those movies, like the
skateboarding,
the Coldplay, the kind of the dreariness of it, the little odd dialogue between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. It's not going to age well. Speaking of music, I had completely forgotten about Nickelback.
Yeah,
from the first one until the credits started. You go, they say that a hero can save us. I had completely forgotten about it.
I forgot about the festival in the first one, the parade with that woman singing.
Macy Gray.
Yeah. Oh my God. What an era. What a time we lived in, Sean. That was another good thing these movies were for, is going back and seeing what we did in the early 2000s. Yeah. We've come so far. Oh, God. Still, though, really, really fun time. I had a good time with these. I'm glad you suggested we do these, because I don't think I would have watched them anytime soon otherwise, but it's a really fun rewatch. Even the last one, it lasted, it didn't necessarily drag, but I did start to feel the time on it. But I watched the editor's cut, Sean. It was 2 minutes less than your version. So,
wow.
Yeah. Definitely check out that Sandman scene, though.
Okay, yeah, I want to look that up on YouTube.
It's really good.
Sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. But you guys should go watch them, too, and let us know what you think about it. theunnecessarygentlemen@gmail.com if you want to send us a letter. Tell us all your thoughts and opinions. Tell us what we do or don't know about it. Well, Sean, what time are we at? Sean, gotta input my password.
Snoop's got something really fun coming up, guys.
Oh, God, it's gonna be so bad.
He's dying to tell you about it.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long episode, so please.
Where are we at?
An hour 45.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be over 2 hours then. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's fine though. You're getting extra content this week, guys. I hope you're ready, because this week I took my brother to go see that film that no one's talking about, Transformers: The Last Night. And boy,
Yay.
Yeah. And I figured since I had to watch this, I could at least make good content out of it for this show.
Let's make this clear. I did not see this movie, and I will never see this movie.
And let's make this clear. I thought I was never going to see this movie, but my brother really wanted to see it. And I gave it a go, and let's just get into it. Oh, so obvious spoilers for anyone who actually does want to see this film. If you do, maybe not talk to me about it. But Sean, now before I go into my hearty review, I've come a little game we can play. Now I've got a list of things that happened in this film, and one of these facts isn't true. Now I'm going to go through all of these. These are actual things that may or may not have happened in this movie. One of them is false. You tell me which one's false. Okay? So here we go. This movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes long. It came out in 2017 on a Wednesday in the U.S. It's marketed as the final chapter, but clearly set up for a sequel. And now some juicy plot points. Merlin, the wizard Merlin, you're familiar with him?
Yes.
He's a drunk idiot played by Stanley Tucci, even though Stanley Tucci played a completely different character in the last film. The two characters are not related. There's a government organization hunting Transformers, but they can't find Transformers that are right next to him in a junkyard nearby and aren't transformed into cars. They're just regular robots walking around a junkyard. There's a black character at one point who admits that he doesn't pay taxes and says no one should be surprised. Marky Mark calls a young teenage girl bro various times throughout the film. Anthony Hopkins says something at one point along the lines of, "Now that's a bitchin' ride." An Oxford history professor is introduced through a game of polo for some reason, and later on is surprised to learn of her own family's history, even though it's her job to know history, specifically Arthurian history, in which her ancestors played a big part. And there's a Suicide Squad style lineup where multiple Decepticons are introduced one by one, who are either never seen again because the government won't let them out of Transformers jail, or are killed less than 5 minutes after their appearance. And last but not least, Optimus Prime shouts, "I am Nemesis Prime," to let the audience know that he's evil, before shouting, "I am Optimus Prime," 20 minutes later to let us know that he's not evil anymore. So to all those facts, which do you think is a lie?
Some of those I know are true. Was it the one with the Oxford professor?
Nope, that's true. The thing that's false is that the movie is actually 2 hours and 29 minutes.
I literally looked that up on my phone. And I was like, he's probably rounding up. Because I was like, what is the runtime?
All those other things, as ridiculous as they may sound, actually happened in a film.
Okay.
This movie is one of the worst things I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't even know where to begin with this, Sean. I had my brother give me a rundown of the last film because that's the one that starts with Marky Mark. Because, Shia LaBeouf's out. He's old news. Marky Mark's in. And he told me everything I needed to know. The thing is, though, this movie counts on you forgetting anything that happened from the previous 4 movies. Because they just kind of make stuff up as they go along.
The second one does that. Because I've only seen the first 2 of these movies. And Revenge of the Fallen, I was like, no more. I am done.
Yeah.
But I remember very specifically, the first one ends... What's the name of the bad guy, the Mega whatever?
Couldn't tell you. Megatron?
Megatron. Sure, we'll go with that.
Megatron's the main bad guy from the first film.
The first movie ends with them, like, pushing Megatron down into the ocean, the deep, dark depths of the ocean. They're like, it's too cold down there. He can't get out. And other Decepticons can't go down there and get him. The second movie starts with Decepticons going down to get him.
Oh, yeah, they give him that key thing.
So immediately they regarded how their first movie ended going into the second one.
Yeah, that's the thing. As most people know, these movies are bad. Just bad films. But even from a Transformers fan standpoint, this movie is utter garbage because there's no sense of a story at all. The stuff they do include is either pointless or is just made up for this particular movie. That girl in particular who's over, in all the marketing, she has nothing to do. Like she shows up at the beginning to save some kids who you never see these kids again. They were just a bunch of cool kids running around a sectioned off part of the city that got attacked one time. And apparently she's been living there with this other Transformer who immediately dies, and then she cries, and we're supposed to feel bad that these 2 characters who we've never seen interact are, one's being killed and the other one's losing her or him. I don't know. Marky Mark shows up and she hitchhikes with to his secret base in the junkyard. He tells her to get out, but then 5 minutes later doesn't ever tell her to leave again, so she just stays. It's just, this movie is a long trailer for toys and for the next movie to come, which again, they marketed this as the last one. Like, all these trailers say the final chapter is here, blah, 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 blah. The whole movie revolves around Cybertron's back. Quintessa is the new villain. It's like this alien hybrid transformer, and she's the one who turns Optimus Prime into Nemesis Prime for 20 minutes because basically they have to give Cybertron life, and the life is inside Earth, which Earth is now Unicron.
Cool.
The Transformer that's the only Transformer that I think people want to see, and then they're officially done with these. So it turns out Earth's Unicron, and there's horns popping up throughout the Earth all of a sudden. And obviously they're stopped. And then the ending is a female. You know, you said you watched the second one?
Yeah.
You know, there was a weird hot female Transformer trying to kill Shia LaBeouf?
Yep.
Well, now there's a weird hot female Transformer in the desert saying, don't touch Unicron's horns. He doesn't like that. And that's going to be the 6th movie. What else happened in this movie? This movie made my head hurt.
Take your time.
I mean, all the effort I really put into was for this game that we just played. So, but yeah, this character none of these characters are interesting. Transformers or humans. The humans are the ones we get the most out of, which everyone's complaints, who even won't like these films, have been, there's too much human stuff going on. So you figure they would at least focus on the Transformers. The Transformers are hardly even in this movie. They're just there to drive the main characters from point A to point B. Bumblebee can do stuff he could never do at any point during the other films. If he gets broken, like his limbs literally pop off, he can just call them back together and reassemble like the Iron Giant. Also, he helped a clock kill Hitler.
That's good.
Yeah. So, but the thing that got me most, just from watching the other films, is just that the fact that the Transformers apparently have been around for ages.
So
Even though in the first film, they say Bumblebee and a couple others were here, but they didn't do anything. They've just been hiding out. And then Optimus Prime and all the other ones get called down from Earth, or to Earth in the first film. But they completely scrap all that and just say there's been a whole group of people called the Wiccans. Huh?
Yeah. So from what I've heard about is there's a bunch of historical figures who were in some kind of secret society.
That's the Wiccans.
Like Harriet Tubman and
George Washington
and Albert Einstein, I think, is what I heard.
Yeah, it's basically this organization has been around since, I guess, the first Transformer showed up during Merlin's era. He was the first Wiccan. And again, he's a drunk idiot who makes friends with a Transformer who gives him this specific tool. Because in every Transformers movie, it's always revolved around, we have to get this one item that we didn't know about, but now we know about, and it can change the world. Well, in this one, it's a staff embedded with Merlin's DNA, and only someone of Merlin's descent can use it. And so the Oxford professor, played by Laura Haddock, is the last living descendant of Merlin. And so to save the world, she's got to pull that staff out of Cybertron. So that's... And the last knight's Marky Mark because he gets a token from a Transformer that turns into an Excalibur exactly one time to block Optimus Prime's sword. So he blocks... Marky Mark blocks a giant robot sword swing with another robot sword the size of his body.
Huh.
And that's the only time you see it. But the thing that got me most is the Optimus Prime being evil stuff. That's the main thing they're marketing. Well, that's horseshit because he's literally evil for 20 minutes. And how he stops being evil is it's a real Batman-Superman situation where, you know how Bumblebee can't talk?
Yeah.
Well, he can talk now because he was about to get murdered. And he tells Optimus with his own voice to remember who he is. And then he remembers who he is and yells, "I am Optimus Prime." But then, shortly after that, his voice is broken again and he talks through the radio.
From what I remember from the second one, he actually could talk. He just chose to...
Yeah, but it got broken. That was in this film. They said, hey, there's a specific scene with Marky Mark and the other Transformers where they're like, oh, you got Bumblebee's new voice box? Is it going to work? And he's like, we'll see. And the gag is it's a voice box with Siri's voice. And then you have Siri chime in and she's cussing because Bumblebee's pissed off because he doesn't want that voice.
There's some nice promotion.
Oh, there's so many shameless promotional bits in this. He gets a nice Bud Light out of the fridge, of course. I think in the last one there was a Victoria's Secret truck that got exploded. These movies are... I don't even know if I can call them that. Anyone involved with this film cost over $200 million to make. And it's in the U.S., it's only made $15 million.
But that's just for opening night, isn't it?
Well, it's been out since Wednesday. And as of today... It's only got 15 million. At least that's what IMDb said.
Yeah, I would take a guess and say that they just haven't totaled it up yet. That's probably just opening night.
I don't know. It's not good no matter what it is.
No, and I know the last one didn't make a ton domestically.
It wouldn't have made this one if it hadn't been for China specifically. But these films have no sense of a structure to them at all. The thing that keeps people coming are...
It's saying 37 million.
Oh, so 15 million, about or a little more than...
Yeah, so we'll see how this one does over the weekend.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the stories... There's never been a huge story, but there's at least been something. This, you can barely call it that. It's the same rehash plot from the first 4 films. It relies on people forgetting the continuity of these films or just going along with changes or loosely explaining why these things are the way they are now. All to set up a new toy line. Those Decepticons are introduced name by name because Megatron needs them for specifically to get that staff. And this gigantic robot is negotiating with Josh Duhamel. And Josh Duhamel says, you can't have this Transformer because he's too dangerous. And Megatron just says, okay. And we never see those Transformers again.
Makes sense.
Also, we can get an action figure out of each of these Decepticons. The rest are just kind of murdered quickly by Bumblebee, or they throw in a Hotshot, I think is the new one, because they always get a new one that everyone's always excited about. He has a French accent only because he doesn't know how to stop speaking in a French accent, but he also has a device that can stop time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's useful.
It is very useful, actually. But again, like, there's no instance of Transformer. Like, these aren't, in the first films at least, they kind of kept to this core idea of they're alien robots that came from outer space and they take on the form of whatever they scan. So that's why they look like cars. In this, Transformers are coming from outer space, but they're just kind of straight up aliens. And they don't explain the difference between the two. They don't explain why they finally explain, like, hey, this is why all the Transformers came here all these many times is for this one specific item. And that Unicron is supposedly the Earth. But this movie, there's nothing to it. There's no amount of thought or care that went into this. The fights are the main things that people come back for. And there's maybe 2 or 3 that last less than 10 minutes. There's a lot of scenes of cars chasing other cars. And then they lose them and get to the next, spot where Anthony Hopkins is. And everyone's here just for a paycheck. It's really obvious. I think Anthony Hopkins just wanted to cuss a lot because he does that. What they do with the women in these films is just kind of, it's borderline gross at this point.
Yeah. Because
that one girl who has nothing to do but is there, she's only like 15 in real life, but he sexualizes her too in the film, the way it's shot and everything. It's like a lot of slow motion running with her at the front, and she's got a low cut top.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable watching that scene.
That was him testing the audience.
Well, no, he tested the audience last time because apparently there's a whole plot point that revolves around the last actress where she's kind of underage, but it's okay in certain states.
Well, at least the actress was,
she was at least overage.
Yeah.
She's but in this, it's an actual child. I think in the film she's 14, and in this, that actress is actually 15. Either way, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. They put $200 million plus into this. And there's nothing there. I don't know why people would see this other than they're like me and they either took a family member who wanted to see it or they're reviewers and they have to see it.
Yep. So I don't watch these movies, but I always enjoy when they come out just to watch like critics lose their minds.
Well, I just lost mine. I mean, there's not really much to add. All those plot points I mentioned are all true. That should say enough about the film as it is. That professor's really good at polo, though.
Oh, yeah. So overall, sounds like a fun time.
I would give this film... I'm not giving this film a review. That's all I can do. I can't even give this film a rating system. That means nothing.
5 out of 5 stars, Snoop says.
Nope. I do not endorse that message. So yeah, don't go see that movie.
Okay, moving on.
I think I'm overheated. All right, Sean. Well, while I catch my breath after that, we can go into one more segment where we check things out. Check it out, where we talk to you guys about all the things we check out and whether or not they're worth checking out. Don't check out Transformers The Last Night.
Huh. Don't even check it out from your local library.
Final chapter, my ass.
Anything you've been checking out there, Snoop?
Well, we can actually talk about this one together since we both checked it out.
We did check it out.
Want to go over that new Batman comic that just came out?
Okay.
Yeah, so Dark Days, The Forge, #1. It's going to kick off the DC Metal event coming this year.
So what is that event about exactly?
Basically, Scott Snyder is the main writer behind it, I believe, which in this particular prelude, it was written by Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV, I think. But, yeah, it's setting up an event where there's multiple Batmen from other universes, and I think they're going to be coming over to try and take over the main Earth. And this prelude goes into Batman kind of, I guess he knows about it, and he's kind of setting up for it. What's really interesting, though, and I kind of want to see where it, what this does, is there's a small bit with Hawkman in there you read.
Yep.
And it goes into his origin with the nth metal, which is that material that came from outer space that gives both him and Hawkgirl their powers, and the mace is made out of it. In this, we find out a couple things are made out from that nth metal. You remember where he's in the Batcave and you see the various things lined up? Mm-hmm. You see Wonder Woman's gauntlets at one point.
Yeah.
Aquaman's staff, or trident, I mean. And there's one more thing I believe is in there. It turns out that I guess they're also made out of nth metal, and it all ties back to this thing that during one of Hawkman's lives, he discovered about this material and what it means for the universe. And now Batman's starting to discover it. And so it's going to link up with these other Batmen from other universes who are coming to take over. And I think that's more or less the gist of the event. And that's why it's called DC Metal.
Okay.
But I don't like Hawkman a lot, to be honest. But I like the whole concept of the nth metal actually tying into all these other materials that have been made. Yeah. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, the comic itself is pretty interesting. It's not, I don't think it's up there with some of Scott Snyder's best Batman stuff, but
it's just a prelude. Yeah. So I think as a initial issue, really good as far as setting up something. You like there's a lot of characters just kind of being brought back into this, which I enjoy. A lot of obscure characters too, like Mr. Terrific is back.
Miracle Man, the Immortal Man's in there.
Yeah.
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle, yeah. I think Tom King's going to start writing another comic with him soon as well. The big surprise is, and this is spoilers for all this stuff, obviously, but you see Batman apparently has bat caves all over, and one of them happens to be on the moon, where he meets Mr. Terrific, who's been off doing other universe stuff, kind of gearing up for whatever's coming. And they're like, I think we should let him out. And you see this container that's the same color as this Plastic Man's uniform. So it looks like Plastic Man is back. I'm really excited for that. What someone said online is that the container is egg-shaped.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a Play-Doh container. That's kind of fun. So, yeah, and basically Batman's been putting together the secret Spec Ops team with Mr. Terrific and all these other characters to kind of help him with this instead of including the initial Justice League, which is very Batman-like to me. I think there's a lot of stuff in here. It's very Batman-oriented. I think this whole event's going to be because we can't get away from them these days. But I liked it. I like kind of what it set up for what's to come, and I'm really interested to check out what this, what all this metal stuff is. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a huge event for overall continuity and the Rebirth stuff. I think the Doomsday Clock is going to be that one. But if this, I'd actually like that if it was just kind of like almost like an Elseworld continuity story. Plus, I want to see what these evil Batmen look like.
I'm assuming Owlman's going to be in it.
I don't know. I think Snyder said he wanted to make new evil Batman characters. They came out with a list of all the comics that are going to be part of this, and a lot of them are like I think one's called Batman Drowned, and it has a cover with Batman and Aquaman. I think what he's trying to imply is that it's going to be universes where Batman got the powers of the other Justice League members. So there's going to be like a Batman Aquaman. There's going to be a Batman Superman kind of mix.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not too keen on Batman being in everything, but I do kind of like this. If this was just kind of like a one and done event story, I'll be fine with that. And like I said, I just like Batman having bat caves everywhere. There's a bat cave in the bat cave now. But yeah, anything else you wanted to mention that stood out?
Nah, I think that pretty much covers it.
Cool. All right. Well, what have you been checking out besides that, Sean?
So I watched the first few episodes of Glow on Netflix.
The glorious ladies of wrestling themselves?
Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not quite what I was expecting. There's not that much wrestling in it. It's only 10 episodes, and each episode's only only a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's you can get through it pretty quickly. Alison Brie is the main character, who kind of have a crush on old Alison Brie, so that's cool. And you get to see her naked in this, so that's also cool. Mark Maron's in it. Mark Maron's in it. But,
is he naked?
Unfortunately not.
Dang it. Well, we can't have everything, Sean.
He's actually really funny in it. He plays the casting director of Glow, and he's just such a dick to everybody. Like, even Alison Brie's character, her name is Ruth, she's like, I don't know about your face. Like, it's sort of attractive. Look this way. See, now it's unattractive. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and they take full advantage of, the 80s setting with the fashion and the music and everything.
Some nice wrestling leotards in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think it's getting better as it goes. I've only watched the first 3 episodes, and I've heard people say that by the time you get close to the end, it starts to get really good. So, I'll stick with it till the end, probably.
Yeah, it's a really fun idea to me.
Yeah, and Glow, it's based on something that actually did happen. Glow was, I think it was from 1986 to, 1984. It was an actual show.
It was 1986 to 1984. It went...
Wow, Snoop. 86 to 94. It's been a long episode.
We lost so much time on this, we had to go back.
But, yeah, it's based on... it's a very fictionalized version of it, from what I understand. I don't think any of the characters in this show are based on any of the characters on that wrestling show from back then.
Yeah.
That somehow went back in time by 2 years. But, yeah.
No, it sounds really, like I said, it sounds like a fun idea. I don't think I'd be interested if it was wrestling in the 80s, but with like a guy's wrestling team or anything. I don't think anything like that would appeal to me. So, yeah, I like Alison Brie. Are they still doing, what's that show she was on? Girls? Was that one of the ones she was on?
She was ever on Girls. She was on Community for a little, she was a main character on Community. She was in Mad Men for a little bit.
Okay.
She may have popped up.
I think she was on Girls.
She may have been. I don't know. That's an awful show.
Sorry to anyone who likes Girls. No, I definitely want to check it out. It's even in my wheelhouse. It's only 30 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that till I started watching it, because I assumed it was going to be an hour, and I was like, 36 minutes? I can do that.
Yeah, I think Netflix is, they're trying more things on that. I'm thinking of Allison Williams, who was on Girls.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, I think, they're trying a lot more stuff. You can tell that as you go into their Netflix original section, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
But I think this will be one of the ones that kind of carries over into, not necessarily one of the great titles.
Yeah, I don't think, out of Netflix's stuff, I don't think this is one of their great ones, but I think it's definitely good.
It's finding that middle ground between stuff like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, and was that one show that got canceled?
Marco Polo, Sense8.
Sense8, yeah.
Sense8 was awful. I know people loved Sense8. Some people did.
It was small following. Well, what killed it was the budget.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Well, they filmed all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was the most expensive show. Even more than Game of Thrones.
The thing that bothered me most about that show is the fact that everyone speaks English. I don't get it. Maybe it's just that's what I'm hearing it. No, I just have them speak different languages when you're all over the country like that. But, oh well. No one can even say they'll bring it back because it was on Netflix at first. Oh.
Netflix, save it. Oh, wait.
You killed it. But, no, it's pretty good. I'll definitely want to check it out. Trying to think of anything else I checked out. I'll go ahead and talk about the other comic I read this week. And you can add in a little input since you read some of it. I read Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man #1. It's the new Spider-Man book by Chip Zdarsky. I think it's okay. I think.
Oh.
I like what they tried to do because there is such a dedicated continuity to the Amazing Spider-Man run that unless you want to go back and read hundreds of comics, which most people wouldn't want to do, there's really no good jumping on point. This is kind of a soft reboot, so it looks like Spider-Man has been Spider-Maning for a while, but he's kind of starting over, getting back to his roots in New York, and it's not introducing a whole lot of other things you need to know about. Like, there's no Miles Morales, at least not right now. Johnny Storm's in it, which is kind of fun because, you know, they haven't really done anything with the Fantastic Four since they canceled those comics. But I think what really just didn't sell me on this book overall is I don't know if Chip Zdarsky knows how to write Spider-Man as a humorous character. A lot of the humor fell flat for me. And I think I've laughed more at the editorial notes by Chip Zdarsky just because they were just kind of there than the actual stuff that Spider-Man was saying. And I won't get into spoilers, but basically Spider-Man is back in New York, stops a couple robbers and notices there's a phone on the ground that's been hacked and he needs someone to hack it for him. So he takes it to somebody, and that kind of leads into this new story arc they're starting with and him trying to figure out what's going on. There's a lot of interesting reveals and twists. There's a specific reveal at the very end that I don't know where they're going to go with that, but I do want to. It makes me want to read another issue for that reveal alone to see where it goes. Also, you get a lot of fun. Like I said, Johnny Storm's in it. Ant-Man's in it. There's a fun bit. Did you get to that part?
Yeah, I saw Ant-Man.
Where Ant-Man's his belt. Yeah, he's middle-sized because his helmet's messed up. That's fun to me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it can get better, so I'm going to try and stick with it. What about you? What did you think overall?
It didn't really grab me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I can grab you right now if you want.
Snoop.
Oh, we're still on air?
Is that door locked?
Yeah, I picked it up because I've been missing reading Spider-Man comics, and I thought this might be a good way to get back in them. So maybe it will be, maybe it won't. Just throw it out there for anyone interested. You're welcome, Sean.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I'll check out a couple more things next week. I think I'm going to check out the first few issues of Saga, Sean.
Yeah, I see it sitting over there on your shelf.
Yeah, I got it.
I need to read that. Brian K. Vaughan. That's he wrote Why the Last Man, one of my favorite comics.
Yeah, and this apparently is just as good, if not better. It's still ongoing, I believe. I think he does it every now and again. So yeah, I'm going to check that out and talk about it next week. You're still looking to check out Underwater Welder?
I just got it today. They took forever to ship it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to definitely talk about it next week.
Blame your problems on everyone else, Sean.
Wow.
But if that's all we got, I guess after this long episode, we can let some of those people go.
Yep.
The rest of the people stay with us. So if you like this episode and you listen to all of it and you want to listen to more, check out our other episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher, and YouTube. There's some on there. If you want to get in touch with either of us, we're on Twitters. You can message me at Snoop_Lynch or Sean at the first Sean. If you want to talk to us both, which we would really enjoy, send us a letter, theunnecessarygentlemen@gmail.com. Also, if you got time, leave us a review on iTunes. We just got a second review in, Sean.
Very happy with it.
Yeah.
Whoever did that, thank you.
Yeah, Judo Schwitz.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm butchering your name. But yeah, so shout out to that person that gave us this pretty solid review.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Made us sound smarter than we actually are, so we appreciate that. But yeah, like I said, if you want to, anything helps with the show, just even listening to it. But also, throw in a review or tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. If you got any ideas of stuff we could talk about or things you want to talk to us about, definitely do that. And we will respond. Won't we, Sean?
Oh, I'll be there so quick, Snoop.
He's already here. But until next week, enjoy these episodes and things. Sean, take over. I'm running out of words.
Next week, Baby Driver.
Yeah, that's the thing we're going to do is Baby Driver. I always fall apart at the very end. But yeah, so next week we'll do Baby Driver. After that movie that we've all been waiting to see and already have, Spider-Man Homecoming.
And then week after that, isn't it?
More for the Planet of the Apes. And after that,
we're going to take a few weeks off. Nah, we'll still be here.
No, we're watching Dunkirk.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, that'll come out right after.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a full slate coming up, Sean. Hope you're ready.
Oof. It's that time of the year.
We hope you guys will join us then. But until then, bye.
Bye. That episode turned out good.
Well, don't tell them that, because then they'll think...